Shalom. Parashah Korah, Numbers 16:1 to 18:32. Welcome, everyone. Parashah Korach is one of the most dramatic and cautionary stories in the whole Torah, and today we're going to look at it in depth. This isn't just an old story, it's a basic story about how to question divine authority and the scary things that might happen as a result. You can find it in Numbers chapters 16 to 18. Get your coffee and maybe a notepad because we're about to learn some things that will always be true. Let's get things going. The Israelites have left Egypt, received the Torah at Sinai, and are now traveling through the desert. God has made it obvious that Moses is the leader and talks directly to God. Aaron and his descendants are the only priests who can serve in the tabernacle. It wasn't a vote that made this order, it was God who chose it. But then we meet our enemies, Korach, a Levite, Dathan and Abiram, who are from the tribe of Reuben, and a strong party of 250 important Israelite leaders. They stood up and told Moses and Aaron to their faces. What did they say? Sounds like it could be democratic, right? Why do you two get to be in charge when everyone is holy? But if you look more closely, you'll see a strong combination of human flaws at work. We're talking about jealousy, notably from Korach, who was already a privileged Levite but wanted to be a priest like Aaron. Dathan and Abiram want authority and are jealous of it. They think their tribal lineage gives them a right to dominate. And in the end, they were very unhappy with the parts they had been given. Not only were they doubting Moses and Aaron, but they were also disputing God's wisdom in constructing a certain hierarchy. They were saying, "We know better. We deserve more." So, what did God do in response to this direct attack on his power? Moses didn't try to argue or reason. He realized this was a matter of God. He asked God directly to clear his name. He told Korach and the 250 leaders to bring their censers and incense the next morning, along with Aaron. This was a direct test because only priests were allowed to offer incense. The results came right away and were really alarming. First, the earth opened up and swallowed Korach, Dathan, Abiram, their families, and all of their things while they were still alive. This had never happened before. They walked down into Sheol, which was a clear indicator that they were rebelling against God. Then, a fire from the Lord burned up the 250 men who were burning incense without permission. This was a searing punishment that showed how sacred the priestly profession is and how dangerous it is to try to get to God without permission. But believe it or not, the people still complained. They told Moses and Aaron, "You have killed the people of the Lord." And because of their continuing resistance, a plague broke out among the Israelites and killed 14,700 persons very quickly. The disease finally ended when Aaron, the very high priest whose job they had questioned, went into the middle of the crowd with incense to make things right. A strong, agonizing proof of his heavenly calling. To give final, irrefutable proof, God told each tribe to bring a stick. Aaron's staff, which stood for Levi, suddenly sprouted, bloomed, and made delicious almonds overnight. They maintained this living proof in the Ark of the Covenant as a permanent sign against rebellion. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is a spectacular story, but what does a rebellion against Moses thousands of years ago have to do with us? This is where the strands come together. Parashah Korach sets a standard. It shows us how dangerous it is to go against God's will. And we see this pattern in many other parts of the Bible. Consider 1 Samuel. The Israelites are rejecting God as their direct ruler when they ask for a human monarch. This is similar to how Korach rejected Moses as God's direct leader. Later, God tells the prophet Samuel to tell King Saul to do something. When Saul doesn't listen, God rejects him as king. Again, not submitting to divine power has serious implications. Skip forward to the New Testament. Paul cautions in 2 Timothy about false teachers who will lead people astray because they have itching ears and want to hear what they want to hear instead of good doctrine. This is similar to Korach's appeal to the people's yearning for a different, maybe easier, way of being spiritual that fits with their own sense of purity instead of God's truth. These phony teachers don't believe in real authority. And maybe most clearly, the author of the book of Jude names Korach, Cain, and Balaam as examples of people who perished in Korah's rebellion. Jude tells people to stay away from individuals who defile the flesh, reject authority, and blaspheme the glorious ones. This demonstrates that Korach's rebellion was driven by pride, a desire to overthrow God's established order, and a desire for power. These are all spiritual dangers that happen again and again. So, if all these stories tell us not to question divine authority, who is the ultimate authority we are supposed to follow? Now we come to Yeshua the Messiah. He is the final answer and fulfillment of these ideas. Korach questioned the authority of Moses and Aaron, but Yeshua has absolute authority. He is not only a leader, he is the ideal priest-king. According to the order of Melchizedek, not the Levitical order that Korach wanted, he is the high priest forever. This is a priesthood of eternal sacrifice and atonement that is much better than anything in the tabernacle. He is the King of kings and the Lord of lords. He said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me," Matthew 28:18. Yeshua humbled himself, even to death on a cross, unlike Korach, who wanted to make himself look better. Yeshua lived a life of full obedience to the Father's will, unlike Saul, who disobeyed. If you found this video insightful, please let us know by commenting below. Your feedback helps us improve. And if this teaching has blessed you, even in a small way, please like, share, and subscribe for future lessons. He is the real shepherd who protects us from those who would lead us astray with false promises and selfish ambition by giving up his life for the sheep. Parashah Korach offers us a harsh lesson about how dangerous it is to be proud and to dispute God's chosen order. But it also lays the framework for understanding the majestic, righteous, and flawless authority of Yeshua the Messiah in a wonderful way. He is the one who deserves all praise, respect, and obedience. You shouldn't question his authority, instead, you should accept it with confidence and obedience. Now that we've thought about Korach, let's ask ourselves, where may we be tempted to doubt God's plan or the leaders he has chosen? And how can we better submit to the loving authority of Yeshua our Messiah? Thank you for being here today. Stay blessed and keep studying his word until next time. Shabbat Shalom.